But I am Mark J. Carter, creator of Idea Climbing. And as far as advice, some of the best advice that I've received lately was it's not about you. I couldn't get a hold of somebody. I was thinking, oh, God, what did I do? Maybe they don't want to talk to me. What's going on? And they said, it's not about you. And when I reached out to that person based on that advice, and I said, hey, what's going on? There was a family problem. It had nothing to do with me, and I was worried it did. So that's some of my most recent advice that I really, really loved. And with the book, getting started is creating your compass. That's what you do. What direction are you moving in? Why are you moving in that direction? So many people start with, oh, goal setting and all this other stuff. You just got to pick a direction and start moving in it to get specific results that you know that you're aiming towards. And that is the getting started part of the book and the compass part of the book.
Wow. Great stuff, man. So let's start with it's not about you. And then we're going to go deeper into the getting started part towards the end. But talk to me about that, Mark. Like, it's not about you. Like, how do you like shift your brain to get that, man? Because so many times, right, we feel like it is us. Like, oh man, I must have ticked Carter off. Why isn't he calling me back?
First of all, just making that a mantra. It's not about you. And I'm getting better at it. I am not perfect by any means yet, but I'm getting better at until they tell me why they're not getting back in touch with me. I'm not going to assume. I'm not going to let my brain run rampant of what did I say? Did I do something wrong? Was I too pushy? If it's a sales situation. And I really focus on it's not about me and wait till you hear from them. And most of the time in situations like that, I can actually say all the time, I can't think of one where someone came back and said, oh, you pissed me off. No one's come back, made it about me. It was always, I got busy. You were in my spam folder, family something, business something, but it hasn't, there's been no major upset where it was my fault. And before someone told me that, I made it my fault. And I made it, oh, it's all about me. I did something wrong when I did nothing.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, the good news is, this conversation is all about you, buddy. So congratulations, first of all, on the book. So I know it's been a long time coming. You've been working on these ideas for a long time. But I have to tell you, I thought you were in Chicago a lot longer than that. I didn't realize that you just moved to Chicago in 2002. That's so interesting. Yeah. So take us back there, because you moved from Michigan to Chicago, which could not be more different. So how did that go, and how did you get started building your network in Chicago?
Great question. In Michigan, I was a life coach because I read a Tony Robbins book and wanted to be just like him. And everything I did speaking to high schools and colleges was cold calling. I was not successful at it, but a few things came in to pay the rent. It was okay. Moved to Chicago, lived in the burbs just north of Chicago, a suburb called Evanston. And I had never been to an official networking event in my life. Technically, unconscious competence, my 2 corporate jobs in college, I got through networking. But I just said it was my friend's dad gave me a job, and I didn't know I was even networking. In Chicago, a 20-something-year-old life coach, cold calling didn't work. Not at all. The rejection level was insane. And I went to an event and someone was speaking, and the book was just become a New York Times bestseller, Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders. And I met him. He helped mentor me and teach me a lot of different things. The book, though, was so simple. Share your network, share compassion, share your knowledge. And I just said, well, if one person could teach me that much, what if I went to other people? So anyone that talked about relationships or networking in magazines, books, authors, CEOs, entrepreneurs, whatever it might be, I would just get, even if it was 20 minutes on the phone or a cup of coffee. And what I started doing was building a strategy based on what they taught me about networking and then how to get referrals. And I just was going crazy. I don't know how many events a week I was at. I mean, some nights it was like 2 events a night. And I just figured practice makes perfect, not always perfect, but practice makes you better than you were yesterday. So I just started putting what they taught me into play, and it changed everything. Completely changed everything. It's like, finally, I have a method to my madness. I'm not just handing out business cards. I'm building relationships. That was a big, huge epiphany for me. It's not about selling and handing out as many cards as you can. It's about finding the right people and then building mutually beneficial relationships with them.
Once again, it's not about you. That's so interesting, right? That you learned that, and that's so cool. that came from Tim, right? Because Tim is, our mutual friend. We know Tim pretty darn well, and I knew that you had to have been working with him, because when his book, Saving the World at Work, I think it was the third book, right after Likability Factor, that we set that up, and that was that we set up a conversation with Tim in Chicago. Funny enough, so that's pretty wild, man. So talk to us about how how you create that relationship, or any relationship that you can use then to idea climb.
You have to make it a two-way street, and you have to make it about helping them. And one thing that I learned, especially when I was younger, before I had a big network, people were being so nice to my mentors. Before I even knew what mentoring was, I was being mentored. And it was really out of grasping at straws. I was like, how can I add value to this person's life? I started asking them, what projects are you working on? Who do you need to know? And even at a young age, I just started connecting my mentors to each other and making introductions. And that became that's when I realized with networking, it's like, wow, introductions are the key to help people solve problems or create opportunities. And someone had recently put it this way, as far as having an email newsletter. What would you rather get in your inbox? An email newsletter, which is a good read, or an introduction to somebody that might be able to change your life? And I thought, I'll take the introduction any day of the week. And anyone can start doing this. Like I said, my early 20s, don't know what the heck I'm doing, just connecting the mentors. And if you're just getting started, do that. Find out what projects they're working on, who they need to know, and let them take care of the rest. Just introduce them and let them do what they do. That was a way that I found to give back at a young age. And now I still do it, but back then it was a huge breath of fresh air. I felt like I was actually helping them and helping them move the needle with their career.
Wow. That's very interesting that you talk about, kind of one at a time, right? So how do you do that though, when some people really want a two-legged introduction, right? When they want, I'm going to introduce you to John, and John is, he's someone that you need to meet, but John isn't really open to those conversations, or maybe he is, but he's worried that he's going to get pitched. I mean, how do you overcome that, Carter?
How do you overcome the fear of someone trying to sell somebody something?
Yeah.
I do, first of all, especially back then, a double opt-in introduction. I ask both parties first separately. Can I make the introduction because of this? I think he might be able to help you. You want to become an author, and he's willing to talk to you for 20 or 30 minutes. But I also clarify, especially if I don't know the people too well. Like if it's you, I can just send you an introduction. We got it covered. But if someone I don't know as well, I directly set the tone on the one-on-one that if, let's say, you offer services to authors, that this is not, this is not a pitch to this person. You're just helping them. And then in the email to both of them, the reason I'm making the introduction is he might be able to help you. This is not a sales lead. I just put it out there, black and white, blunt and directly, so nobody can trip. Once it's been said individually, then it's said in a group email. It would be really awkward to try and pitch someone that you just said in an email in writing. This is not about a sales pitch. And you sometimes just have to do that. That's to protect your reputation, because people can turn on a dime. It's like, whoa. You didn't tell me anything about selling insurance to this person. What are you talking about?
Yeah. No, so I like that. There's two pieces that you said, right? So first, you make sure that you check, you do the double opt-in, you make sure, right, you get the two-legged there. That's important. And then you make it very direct in the introduction that this is not a sales pitch. I think those are really helpful things, especially for newer networkers who maybe are concerned with their network, right? Maybe they know one or two, hyper connectors that could help them and help others, but they don't want to overdo it. So I think those points are super important, Mark. So let's move into talking about the book here. So idea climbing here. Where did you come up with the idea for idea climbing? Like, how do you codify the name? And can you define that for folks who might not be as familiar with the terminology, please?
Yeah. Where I came up with it years ago, I was calling them mentoring programs at the time, but I also would on video or podcasts or whatnot, we would interview the mentors, put their clips on websites about how to create successful mentoring. We were doing a lot more. And one of my mentors pointed out to me that she said, you got to come up with a new term. This is not just mentoring. People think that's just something you do for free. A kid on the south side of Chicago, you're doing so much. You're combining marketing and relationship building and everything with it. And I was just racking my brain and I couldn't think of anything. I was like, God, come on. And I was rewatching a testimonial video. It was probably from 6 months prior at the time. And I don't know how I missed it. The guy was interviewing just said, and Mark Carter is great at idea climbing. And he laid it out. He had the hand gestures and everything. I went to Google, put in idea climbing, nothing but rock climbing. Call a lawyer, and I said, file it. And she would search. She's like, well, we can put it in 2 broad categories or pick one. I said, I want both. They're like, they're not going to approve you. I want both. I still remember her calling me back. Yeah, you got to prove for both. So I own the term for any type of competition. So that was good. But then now it's the system after interviewing people for now 23 years and continuing with my podcast and my YouTube station. Idea climbing is you want to make something happen. You have a big idea, how to build a support system of relationships around you so you're not doing it alone. You're not trying to figure it out alone. You're not climbing up the mountain alone. And you have support, everything from emotional support to connections to referrals and on down. You're not doing it alone is the biggest part of it.
Wow, that's great. So do you continue the metaphor? I mean, do you get people on belay? Do you have a Sherpa? I mean, talk to us more about your system, Mark.
Now it's coaching or consulting, depending if it's a team or it's an individual. And that's where going through each of the chapters, create your compass, getting started. Relationship marketing is a big one where it's a diagram like this, where you start with an idea and you just talk to everybody, anyone under the sun. But then if you do it right, you pivot and you hit a tipping point where you start talking to less people, but more meaningful conversations. So it's not, some people do that wrong. I think relationships and marketing, I'm just going to go talk to everyone. It's like, well, if you've been networking 1 or 2 years even, and you still have to go to 5 events a week, there's something wrong because you're not fostering relationships. You fell into the one and done trap. So the relationship marketing side is focus on the ones who support you, believe you, that you can believe in and support, and focus on them. And that's when you move ahead with creating, I call them collaborative cohorts, virtual mastermind groups, your own events, have a podcast, showcase the genius of your audience, create mentoring experiences. But first you have to know who you're talking to. And that's where the relationship marketing comes in. Is it talk to everyone and anyone and then talk to these people. And you do that for each big idea. I mean, I'm there with my next one of building the business out. Now that the book is done and it's launched, I'm on my new big idea. Let's build the business out. So I'm over here again. And that's just how it cycles through for people.
Interesting. So relationship marketing, a lot of people, when they hear that, they might hear like, oh, geez, like that's a multi-level marketing thing. I don't know that I want to do that. So what's the difference between what you're talking about and what the kind of the MLM idea is behind that?
Idea climbing is all about adding value through collaboration, and it's solving problems and creating opportunities for people. And most of the time that's outside of just do you want to buy for me? A lot of multi-level marketing, that's all it is I want, do you need an extra source of income? Anytime I see that on LinkedIn, it's like, oh, come on, here we go. I'm not even responding to this. No, I know where this is going. Where relationship marketing, part of the book that tells you how to do it, if you want, like one of my favorite things is virtual mastermind groups. I can get people that maybe we know each other, but I don't know if there's enough to have a 30-minute conversation because, time is time. We all have 24 hours in a day. A lot of people, I can't just hop on Zoom with people for the heck of hopping on Zoom with people and vice versa. So you can have a virtual mastermind group, put 8 people in a room together, facilitate it and run through. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I need help with. That's 8 conversations. If those are even 30 minutes a piece, you just save 4 hours you got done in 1 hour. And every time I do one, at least one person is like, oh, because entrepreneurs are always changing. At least one person's like, oh, that's what you're doing now? Oh, we got to talk. I didn't know that. But I have 4 hours worth of conversations in 60 minutes. It's things like that. And now that we're returning, I have an event tonight, a live event, now that we're returning and opening up again, where a friend of mine who runs a social media and web design company, he got really busy before the pandemic. And instead of having one-on-one conversations, and these were live, so that's an hour of your time. He started telling people, here's where I'm going to be from 5 to 7. Come see me. And it's for marketers. So every month he gets 20 20, 30 people in the room, can shake their hands, talk to them one-on-one, and then walk out and go, okay, I got 2 people I got to connect with. And he's adding value for us because I meet people every time I go. I reinforce connections with friends. I meet new ones. But that's what the book gets into, is how can you add value and create, they're called collaborative cohorts or collaboration experiences, and not just always have to feel like you have to have a one-on-one, because you don't. There's just too much time involved to have random one-on-ones.
Wow. I like that. In fact, more efficient is certainly better, especially if we can get deeper quicker, right? That's super good. The collaborative piece, I think, is often the missing, right? We connect a insurance person with somebody who like is already either got insurance or, as an insurance person in the family, doesn't want to talk about it or whatever, right? And there's no collaboration there. That's like shooting fish in a barrel. That's no fun for anybody. Yeah. So what happens, Mark, when that does happen? How do we gracefully back out of that? Because I've been in that situation, and I felt trapped when I do that. Instead of climbing, I feel like I'm getting stepped on in the face. So what do we do, man, when that happens?
When you're like in a meeting with someone and trying to push you and sell something to you? Yeah. My way out, let's just say insurance, because that's a common one where that happens. I just tell people, I'm going to put it right out there, and I'm blunt. I'm already covered. I'm not interested in switching. And that's it. I mean, I'd love to say there's this perfectly eloquent way where everyone walks away happy, and you're not being mean, but the line in the sand is, I don't need your services. And I've gone as far when I'm having a one-on-one with somebody that I thought was a possible collaborative opportunity, and the sales kicks in, I nicely, before they do the sale, but if that vibe someone gives off, it's like, I know what's coming out of this. Okay, I know what street we're going down now. I directly tell them, it's really great meeting you. I love whatever group we met in, because I would never try and sell someone on the first call. And I tell my own story, because it just feels weird. It feels like icky, whatever it might be. So, don't worry about it. I'm not going to sell you anything. We're having this call to get to know each other. Most of the time that does it. Occasionally you just got to shut them down. Like, okay, I told you no. I'm going to go. Have a nice day. But most people, if you do that from your, instead of saying, don't you sell me anything, I won't sell you anything, because you never sell on a first time call. Telling that story, it defuses the sales bomb almost every time.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I like that a lot. That's very, very helpful. Yeah, no, that is right. Because that makes it then about me instead of about them, what I'm not going to do. And hopefully then they catch the drift that, what, I'm not going to sell you. So I'm hoping that you won't be selling me. Right.
Exactly.
Awesome. Love that. So a lot of stuff that we could go deeper on in the book, but I want to talk a little bit more about video conferencing and the whole video mastermind idea, Mark. So how do we set that up, and how do we make sure that people aren't like, kind of wandering around here in outer space and actually pay attention?
I put everyone in the same room, and I set expectations where the most current ones I've done were visionary leader mastermind groups. So the definition, this is in the Eventbrite that I use for people to sign up, is you have this vision you want to bring to life and you need help with it. Come into a room with 6 to 8 other people who can help you. I don't do breakout rooms because it's a small group, and I do little things that make a big difference. The first question, what do you do? Tell us 2 sentences. More importantly, why do you love what you do? The energy totally shifts from like, oh, and I love it because it's so simple, but I haven't seen any other mastermind group do that. And it shifts to that. And then I have to tell them, what do you need help with right now? And it might be clients, and I understand that. But the chances of, if you don't know someone, getting a client on the first time call, you never know, but it's probably not going to happen. So think outside the box. And I use the example of whatever time a year ago, I needed a publisher more than I needed my next client. That's just not a typical elevator speech. So I take them out of their shells, and it's so amazing. I started to have to say professional opportunities, because in one mastermind group, a guy talked about building a crib for his kid. I'm like, no, I didn't want to know if you needed a carpenter. I meant professional business stuff. So now I say professional business opportunities or problems you need help solving, and it's guiding them through that. and telling them that you're not meant to do it on this call for time's sake, especially if it's a full 8 people in the room. The purpose is to have a meaningful one-on-one call with maybe one person in this group. You're not going to go to everyone and get their email and set up 6 to 8 one-on-ones because it's not worth the time for most of you. I want you to walk out with one good one-on-one that is meaningful and you know why you want to talk to them. It's not just, oh, you seem kind of cool. It's like, wow, you said you can help with this problem. I'm bad at sales and you can help give me some advice. Or I'm starting my business. You've done this before. Or whatever it might be. But it's the guided conversation makes all the difference with it. That it has to be guided like that. It can't, the ones that go wrong, or if someone is not used to facilitating, you can't just say, what do you do? It just becomes a bunch of elevator pitches. That's why problems and opportunities. What do you need to solve? What do you need to create? Let's start there. And it makes a huge difference. It's easy for me to say, oh, I might be able to help with that. And as you get to know people, they might become referral sources for you. It's just setting the expectations of we're not here to sell to each other and saying it that bluntly. We're here to solve problems and create opportunities for each other. If you need a website and a web designer is in the room and you say, I need a website, good for you. That could happen. It's just not most likely that you're going to meet someone for the first time and say, here's my credit card or here's my friend's email address. Go sell them something.
Wow. So I wrote that down, right? Solving problems and creating opportunities.
Yep.
So needing a publisher is a good example of a problem that you might have. So what would be an opportunity, Mark, that you might find in your group?
I want to hire interns who's done it before. Where can I find them?
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha. Okay, cool. No, that totally makes sense. Okay, that's helpful. So I just want to understand both legs of that because that is super valuable. Super valuable. So what I love about your book, Mark, is that it really is a blueprint, right? It walks people through step by step what they need to do from the start all the way to the end. You don't hold anything back there, which I think is awesome. So let's as we're getting close to wrapping here, let's talk more about the compass, because I think that is often a place, people jump ahead. I'm guilty of that, right? I've jumped ahead. So let's talk about that compass. Like, what does that mean, and how do people get started on the path to creating that compass?
Well, I don't know if you can't see it, I'll put it back down. But a compass looks like that. In the center, you start with a specific objective. Some people will call it goals. Specific objective. And then the directions are the actions that you're going to take. And you're going to move in certain directions based on the objective that you get. As you move, you're going to start creating results. At that point, you evaluate, was this result toxic result, which is very bad, neutral result, which is okay, supportive result, which is pretty good, or a thriving result, which means let's do more of this. Let's keep moving in the same direction. And it's what are you doing and why are you doing it? What are you doing? I need to get more clients, and my clients are entrepreneurs. Okay, why are you going to this networking group if it's mostly real estate people? Oh, I don't need to go to that group. So I didn't even ask why. I just figured I'll go to any networking group and try and meet people. So that's what the specific objective does for you in the middle. And that's what I do with clients is get clear about what you want and why you want it, and then decide what direction to move into, what groups to go to, what conversations to have, how to create a pitch if you need one, or just how to have better conversations and move into things like group activities, virtual mastermind groups, and things like that. It's really a method to the madness because so many people just go try 10 different things like I did when I first moved to Chicago. It's too many networking events. I was not going targeted. Did not have clearly defined objectives, and I spun my wheels a lot. Luckily, my mentors taught me otherwise, and the people that I interviewed for the book taught me otherwise. And now I don't spin my wheels nearly as much as I used to when I was younger.
Wow. I love that. That's super helpful. That compass will definitely set people straight. Folks, if you want the compass and you want more of this, get Mark's book. Get Idea Climbing. It's fantastic.
You can go to ideaclimbingbook.com. We'll take you to the Amazon page. So
awesome.
ideaclimbingbook.com.
Idea Climbing Book. Fantastic. That is great, Mark. I love that you set that up. So very cool. So, Mark, is there anything else that I didn't ask that I should have asked that could maybe help people along this, or any of the ideas in the book that you're like, you know what, I want to reinforce them, and we did talk about that?
Great question. The biggest reinforcement of what we started to talk about is this is not a sales book. It is not an accident that it's not mentioned. I might mention literally maybe twice. There's no chapter. There's not even a whole paragraph dedicated to the word sale. This is a support system for your next big idea. Then once you have support and you have a compass and you have your virtual mastermind groups, you have your mentoring experiences, now you've got support. That's the time to go, okay, now I'll go out and sell. I'll go build my business now. It's not about selling it first. And some people I know, that's what they do. And it's one and done. And I've talked to them, and I'm sure you have too, where it's like, I get the call, I feel dirty, and they're never going to talk to me again because I didn't want to buy from them. So I feel dirty now, and they just leave. It's like, okay, nice meeting you, which gets awkward if you see them in the same group again, especially if it's live. It's like, okay. But that's the biggest thing I would say with this book is that if you don't want to sell immediately and you realize it takes relationships, this book will help you build the relationships and the support system. And then when it comes time to sell, part of that is an entire chapter, which is one of my favorite ones about mentoring. When you're ready to sell, do the same thing. Create a support system. And I have this now of mentors that will teach you how to sell the way you want to sell. There's a phenomenal book that I've highlighted and I'm reading it again and again. Go Givers, Sell More by Bob Berg. And I am the choir that he's preaching to. It's all about relationships. It's amazing. So you don't always have to learn from I had Bob on my podcast, but it's not like I can call him any time of the day. So I read his book and I learn vicariously from him. And you get support, and then you move ahead and sell. If you're trying to do this, and this sounds familiar, if you've ever thought, oh my God, I have to get 5 new clients, and you just hit the pavement and you're trying to sell everyone and you're just dying inside and it's not connecting, that's because people want connection and relationships, and they'll do business with people they know, like, and trust. This teaches you how to move through the know, like, and trust factor cycle a lot faster than you probably would alone. And again, like you said, this is a blueprint. I made it very, very careful to make this from beginning to end blueprint. If you want to do it yourself, get the book and do it yourself. I made it for the people that couldn't afford to hire me. Get the book. Get your hands dirty. It's all there. And take it from there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's definitely all there. Congratulations, my friend. If folks want to learn more about you, I recommend they go to your website. Go to markjcarter.com. Get to know you more. And Carter, if there was a favorite social network, where would you tell people to go to have a conversation with you and maybe ask you a question or two about the book?
So what do you mean social? Social media. I would say LinkedIn, because it's more professional. And I'm pretty open. As long as, and if you want to connect with me, if you go to markjcarter.com, all my social media sites are there. And I'm open to connecting with, as long as there's a reason. I saw you on Phil's show. I'd love to talk to you, not a blank one. Because then that's like, I don't know where this person came from. It's like, but something as simple as I saw you at Phil's show. Awesome. I'm more than happy to start a dialogue with you.
There you go. Make it all about Carter. Don't make it all about you as we go here, right? And make sure that you explain why that you want to connect. Get a copy of Idea Climbing, friends. Go to ideaclimbingbook.com. Get to know Mark J. Carter. He's a smart dude. 23 years of insight inside this book, and it's a blueprint if you can't afford to hire him. Otherwise, pick him up. Get to know him. Bring him on your team. Thanks, Carter. It's great to see you, brother.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.